that funky slide guitar music that comes out every Monday through Friday live at 5 on the Evil P Network on the YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, Roy Blickert, IE Newswire, type us in. You'll get all that great stuff. Lots to come up. You saw Grady Polk. I mean, getting the Philadelphia thieving football player criminals, catching them and doing justice. We'll have a BS Rob Bonner on the $500,000 political corruption scheme he seems to be pulling off, and his update is his on again, off again, on again announcement for the governor's race on that. Should kids be reading books or looking at online screens every day? We will delve into that. Of course, Susan Shelley will be on at the bottom of the hour. Before we get to Grady Polk and that, here's another one that was absolutely stunning of that. Speeding car run away on John Wayne Airport. Drag race. Dude's out there drag racing a airplane on John Wayne Airport. Let's see what the ABC7 report has to say. Here we go.
A bizarre incident unfolding on the tarmac, and it had nothing to do with an airplane.
Now, all new this morning, we're hearing from someone who witnessed the speeding driver at John Wayne Airport.
Eyewitness News reporter Madison Weil joins us live from the airport with the new information. And Madison, this just looks so bizarre.
John, Rachel, Tony, this is just something you never want to see at the airport. A car recklessly speeding down the...
Well, I don't know about that. Why wouldn't you want to see a car speeding down the road drag racing an airplane? Maybe they could sell tickets. Maybe they put some grandstands on the runway like a drag strip. It could be absolutely fascinating. Here we go.
Tarmac causing chaos and confusion for everyone. This all unfolded right here at John Wayne. And
chaos and confusion will pull in the fans every day of the week and 9 times on Sunday.
We actually just obtained the air traffic control recordings from this incident. Take a listen.
Southwest 1057, hold position. There's a high-speed chase on the taxiway.
Yeah, no doubt a frightening moment for those controllers. We also spoke to an airport employee, a ramp agent, who captured this video as it was happening. He says he and other airport workers were in total shock watching as this white sedan races down the tarmac, speeding right past a number.
Well, he smoked at airplanes going on there. Speculation was it was a medical emergency or something to do with that. We shall see how that incident works out. So we want to get to this. The old FAFO. Thoroughbred thieves. 8 football players from Philadelphia were down in Polk County, Florida. And they decided that they were going to do some ghetto shopping. 5-finger discount, stealing merchandise out of the store. Problem is they ran into Grady Polk, the famous sheriff of Polk County down in Florida. We will see what Grady has to say about this little encounter. Here we go.
Just beat them. They ran over them. And the thoroughbreds were from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, Cocoa Tigers, you did it the right way. That's teamwork with great young men doing the right thing. Now I want to introduce you to 8 of the thoroughbreds. And here they are. You look at the thoroughbreds and you find out what were they doing.
Yes, this will be very interesting. What the thoroughbreds... Why does this always have a common theme to it? When you see these pictures posted, well, let's see what these young thoroughbreds from their team in Philadelphia, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, how's going on? Here's more from the great sheriff from Polk County.
What were they doing on Saturday morning? Well, let me tell you what they were doing. They Ubered from where they were staying. They had come from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, down to the Dick's Sporting Good in Posner Park. Not only did they Uber.
So that wouldn't be unusual. Football players coming in, visiting Dick's Sporting Goods. Maybe they needed a new knee brace or something or other for, some athletic equipment. That wouldn't be unusual for a visiting football team to cruise by or just say, hey, we're going to check out what's at the local sporting goods store.
Down there to shop. They had no intentions of paying for their product. So they came.
That will be a problem, as the 8 young men from Philadelphia are about to find out. It's not a... It may work out for you in Philadelphia to do in there and run the 5-finger discount or just walk out the store without paying. It don't work so good in Polk County, Florida.
Came into the store in 2 groups, and they began to systematically steal product. And that's exactly what they did. They stole, and they stole, and they stole, and they stole, and they stole.
Look at the amount of merchandise these 8 Philadelphia football players decided they were going to cart off with.
Yeah, how do you like that? This is...
I imagine Dick's Sporting Goods didn't like it. I didn't like it. Sheriff Grady, especially, and his deputies were really pissed off about it.
Everything that they stole. And guess what? As we've said before, you can't go any place, anytime that you're not on a camera. So Dick's Sporting Goods knows that they're stealing because they're watching this systematic, organized theft ring called a football team.
So I guess that's the plays they get in Philadelphia. Not, you go down the end, you wide receiver Billy Bob, you go down the end of the end zone that, Tyrone, you cut across there. We're going to do this. Make sure you block a Herman over there who looks like he's a half gorilla over there on that coming in. This... No, they say, check out the local sporting goods store when we're visiting a town and see how much you can rip off. What a team.
Now, not only did they steal 47 items, not only did they steal
47? 8 of them? That's over 6 items per football player of the thoroughbreds. Amazing.
7 items, but ostensibly they may have cost their team the championship and the football game, because I don't know if these all were starters or not, but I can tell you that we were finishers. We arrested them. We took them to the Juvenile Assessment Center, and we put them in lockup.
So they were missing 8 of their 5, or alleged 5-finger discount football players. This is why we love Grady Judd. He's absolutely... Man, if cloning was possible, they should clone Grady Judd and make him sheriff in every, 3,000 or so counties we have in the United States. Crime, wouldn't say be totally eliminated, but I bet you 98.7% of all crime would be totally eliminated. Just like these 8 juveniles didn't get to play in the championship game, probably cost, I'm sure some of them were probably some of the star players or very key players. Let's hope they learn their lesson. And they won't, they probably will be convicted, I'm sure, I'm almost certain, in Polk County, Florida. And they will have a record. A juvenile will probably get wiped out at some point. Let's hope they learn their lesson on this and don't, you might have, that might be the culture in Philadelphia. It's not the culture in Polk County, USA, and it shouldn't be the culture in Philadelphia or anywhere else in the US of A. Not now, not ever. So, kudos to the great Grady Judd, Polk County, Florida, enforcing the law, making their community safe, and keeping the peace. Now maybe you can hear me. Keeping the peace could something we should foster more and more across this great land. Gotta love old Grady. And his press conferences by being entertaining. That's the way the law should be enforced in every community. We'd have a lot less going on. So kudos to Grady Judd and his team out there in Polk County, keeping the faith and the pace. Donald Trump has seized, through the military, an oil tanker outside of Venezuela. See if we can roll this up. Here we go.
It's been an interesting day from the standpoint of news. As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people. Very excitingly,
largest tanker, largest one ever seized. Trump's great on the hyperbole. He's always the biggest, the baddest, the greatest, the largest. Going to be interesting what goes on in Venezuela, and if this whole election fraud thing comes to bear with some of the evidence that's been rolling out lately, and I think why the attention has been focused on Venezuela, but we shall see. They said there was F-18s flying over yesterday. We did some of the disturbing trend of where basically in the 30s, 60% of their time was family, friends, coworkers. Now 60% of people use their time to look at screens. We ran through the disturbing data, and it's almost unbelievable. Read a book. That's the advice for kids after the world's strictest new social media ban. Let's see if we can roll up the ABC7 report here. We go. We thought, well, it was going to play. Anyway, they put a book ban in Australia. Not a book ban, as people would think. No, they put a cell phone ban in. Maybe they're concerned about 60% of the kids and adults sitting there on their screens all day, every day, for no... It's a disturbing trend. There's a new one out showing what the brain rot's doing to you by looking at all these short videos. And the reason they do that is because they're addictive as hell. And hopefully we'll do that. We'll get more in the story on that, of how that particular subject, I don't think it's AI. I think it's going to be the 3x5 screen that does people in. We're still running this rhetoric. Recent FBI raids, impact attendance dropped at schools, increased in high schools, yada, 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 yada. See if this video cooperates.
From UCLA and UC Riverside surveyed high school principals nationwide. Nearly 40% of principals said students from immigrant families have been bullied. 64% said attendance dropped. 70% of principals said students from immigrant families expressed fear.
They still, they keep pumping this out. Usually these are like one-day stories. And they rerun this today on ABC7, and we debunk this or prove your facts. They're going high school reports, and this UCLA study found it's all, well, we interviewed principals and they said. Like the LA story, they've had a 40% decline in 10 years, 4% a year, and they say, well, we had a 4% decline this year because of the immigration rates. Not knowing the history of the trash schools, kids not being taught anything except how to look at a cell phone. No wonder. And they do it. Dribble out of UCLA and UC Riverside. We'll get more in depth in the studies maybe tomorrow. But again, it's just full of, well, the principal said, we surveyed 600 high school principals, and they all said the enrollment drop and the low attendance is because of immigration, because they said so. Some of these things that make you go, So, update on the Rob Bonta political corruption, where he took almost $500,000 out of his campaign accounts because he was a witness in what? Shang Tao Dong's political corruption deal going on in Oakland, where he's from, and his wife has got an assembly seat. The great Ashley Zavala writes, I've updated the story after hearing the FPPC today that both sides have submitted additional info regarding the complaint against AG Rob Bonta. FPPC's Enforcement Division will say on or before December 19th how it will proceed. Yesterday, she reported that they were supposed to have out a message or some sort of response before Monday or Tuesday of this week, which is already Wednesday. And they did not have that. So now they're saying they've got another week or so as more information's been submitted. This whole thing is looking bad for Rob Bonta. And the spastic way he's been acting. First, he was running for governor. Threw his hat in the ring, I'm not running for attorney general. He can run for one more term as attorney general. Would almost be locked in it. An attorney general, he'd have a skate, most likely. Even as corrupt, or potentially as corrupt as he is. Him and his wife. He'd have a much better shot at winning attorney general again than governor, let's put it that way. And then he all of a sudden, Shang Tao, the mayor of Oakland, gets indicted. The Dong family gets indicted in this corruption. And the money seems to be flowing into the Bonta's campaign coffers or wherever. And he says, well, no, I'm not going to run for governor. I'm going to stay attorney general. Well, now he's making noise that he's going to jump back in the governor's race. Lots of political rumors, swirling talk have been, and this is most likely the case, he's been hitting donors up again saying, hey, I'm going to jump back in the governor's race, or if I do, how much money will you roll out to support me? So this is the ABC 7 Bay Area report. Hopefully, here we go.
Reportedly exploring running for another state office. California governor. He'd be joining a crowded field of people who want to replace Governor Newsom. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Good evening and thanks for joining us. ABC 7 News political reporter Monica Madden is tracking this race for us, which is Monica, becoming quite interesting and ever more crowded.
Absolutely, Dan. And this would be quite the change considering Attorney General Bonta previously said he was ruling out a run for California's top leadership position. But with the state of play in this race, it appears a bid for the governor could be back on the table.
As of today, I have not entered the race.
California's top lawyer not ruling out a run for the state's top lawmaker.
Why is he being so spastic? Again, it all is a coincidence. I say not. Most people don't think so. And again, he doesn't have any explanation, or he hasn't come any explanation why he had to spend $500,000 in campaign funds as a witness in a federal investigation probe. Nobody's ever heard of anyone spending anywhere close to that amount of money if they were not a target, part of the investigation, implicated in it in some way.
I'm grateful for the very robust and strong encouragement I'm getting from many across California to consider entering the race.
Boy, is that a resounding statement. Well, I'm considering, and I'm getting a lot of encouragement, or not. I mean, if you want to be elected governor, roll it out. I mean, say it strong, Rob. Say, yeah, I'm going to be your next governor of the state of California. I'm going to continue the Gavin Newsom policies that have screwed over you to death, made a mockery of the state, jacked gas prices up. All we want to do is Trump, Trump, Trump. That's the only thing we can say. Well, we systematically flushed California down the toilet.
It's a shift for Attorney General Rob Bonta, who told reporters at the end of October he would not run for governor.
I am staying out of the governor's race. I am honored, grateful, feel it's a privilege to serve as AG anytime. and particularly in these times. This is the most important moment and the most important job I've ever had. I want to give everything I have to it.
With the current governor even joking.
He just, again, besides being a dullard, if you're going to run for governor, you got to be, I mean, people are not going to respond to, well, you know, I'm such a nice guy and I did it. Even Gabby understands that.
About the need for Bonta to keep working as AG.
If I did have a third term, I wouldn't want to lose him as AG. He's doing an exceptional job.
But on Monday, Bonta nodded to the gubernatorial race remaining fairly open.
Had two candidates that I was supporting to run for governor, Kamala Harris and Alex Padilla, subsequently, and neither of them entered the race.
He's been calling around, kind of checking temperature and what people think and getting ideas is what I hear, but, you know, nothing concrete.
Political consultant Jim Ross says it's tough to tell if Bonta is serious about entering the race.
At this point, you know, anybody could win this race.
With a new poll from the...
I'm telling you, the Royce strategy could and is very possible in this race. And I hope Rob Bonner jumps in because that's just going to dilute the Democrat pool. That makes it even more possible if we can split the center-right vote equally between Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. And then, let's just say that's 20 and 20% to use even numbers. Hold the rest of the 7 dwarfs or 8 dwarfs or 152 dwarfs. More the merrier. Hold them under 20%. Your choice in November is going to be Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco. As they say, this is a very close race.
Public Policy Institute of California showing more than a third of likely voters are either very closely or fairly closely following news about the governor's race. And just within the last week, another Republican got into the race. That's John Slavitt, the former WeWork executive with roots in Silicon Valley. 2 other Republicans are already running, along with more than a dozen prominent Democrats eager to replace Governor Gavin.
So it remains to be seen if this Slavitt guy has any chance. I don't think so. He needs to... We don't need, at this point, any more Republicans in the race. If that's it, the wild card in this, at least in my mind, is Rick Caruso. That's another yo-yo one. Talk to one person, Rick Caruso's running for governor. No, he's going to run for mayor in 27 and re-challenge Beth. No, he's running for governor. No, he's doing this. And from what I heard, he's hired He's one of the top Democratic consultants. Newsom's used him, others. I think Caruso used him in his mayor race, where Caruso spent $100 million and got beat by Buffoon Bass. So it remains to be seen if Caruso jumps in. But again, I hope Bonta makes a run for it. That'll just make it easier for the Roy strategy to take place. And I think it's got a very, 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 very... It's got as better chance. I think it's got as good or better chance as it worked in California Senate District 4 in 2022, where the Rats did it. They took a very plus Republican district, split the vote evenly, about 20% between each Democrat candidate. There was 5 or 6 Republicans. They all got less, and in the top 2 primary deal, it was Alvarado Gil and another one who eventually won the seat. Democrat is... And she... About 6 months ago, she switched to Republican because she's running for re-election in 26. And she knows running as a Democrat, in this scenario, she's going to lose. So she re-registered as a Republican because it's a plus Republican district. So it just goes to show, and I'm going to be nice, how fickle politicians can be. But this is another one. And again, only a third of the people are closely or better.
1 minute. 1 minute.
And in the polls, the latest one came out by PPIC, over 30% are totally undecided, up in the air of this. So, again, if Republicans, center-right, freedom and liberty types get their act together, split that vote evenly between Bianco and Hilton, and then hold the 7 dwarfs or 8, Hope Tabana jumps in, makes it an easy 8, makes the strategy even more apt to work. Susan Shelley should be on.
20 seconds, and she is on the line.
And as we come back on that, we'll get her thoughts maybe on some of this stuff going on and much, much more, and review her columns of the week. Southern California News Group of all the papers that
4 seconds. Here we go.
California.
Day. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience on the UFB Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Check us out. Subscribe. Type in IE Newswire on Rumble, that, or Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, shining, smiling face on that. Go look at the dude that was trying to drag race an airplane or whatever was going on down at John Wayne Airport down in OC. That was a bizarre story on that. I say they should make that more often. Put some grandstands up and sell some tickets. You never know. That might be the new wrestling preview genre of that going on. Donald Trump just announced the U.S. seized an oil tanker off of Venezuela. That thing seems to be getting hot. I think the whole stolen election thing is really, really, really about ready to heat up on that. We went through some of the new updates on Rob Bonta and the FPPC investigation. We're supposed to have some answers in a little over a week, or an update, or something, or another tap dance. Who knows? But, as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
Something else. What do you think? What do you make of this whole Rob Bonta deal with the $500,000 of, in seems vast political corruption, and nobody can figure out. FPPC had a complaint filed against, hey, is he misusing campaign funds? They were supposed to have an answer out this week. By this week already, we were supposed to have an answer where they were going to go with it. Then they came out today and said, well, maybe we got some more information. Tune in next week. Maybe we'll have an update. This all seems to be very highly unusual, Susan Shelley.
Well, I don't know if it's unusual. It's been my personal experience that the FPPC is a politicized agency and that they only really go after people who are not incumbents in power. They go after people who are challenging incumbents in power of either party. And they've been pretty ruthless with citizen groups that do small amounts of leafleting and don't have a disclaimer on their leaflets. And the FPPC will do a huge, expensive investigation to find out whether they spent enough money to be required to do a disclaimer on it. Even if they weren't required to do a disclaimer, they're going to be investigated because they're not on the right political side. So that's been my personal experience with them. They would be looking, in my view, they would be looking for a way to not charge Rob Bonta with any kind of wrongdoing. And truthfully, if you fill out the forms correctly under California law, the way that they pursue these regulations, if you fill out the forms correctly, corruption is legal. However, it may not be legal to convert campaign funds to personal legal fees. That is paying personal expenses, arguably paying personal expenses with campaign funds, and you can't do that. So this may be a challenge for them.
And the reason I think that it may, or there is a possibility of that, FPPC survives on the fines and stuff that it comes from doing that. Obviously, Rob Bonta has a big campaign war chest. Anybody can spend $500,000 on lawyers when they're witnessing a case. I mean, the reason I would think they would do that, and again, yeah, the political corruption is, but how giving records to the FBI or whatever that, and you're getting charged $500,000 for doing this, that, again, what did this have to do with campaigning or that? And again, he said redacting records. Why do you have to redact records that you're sending to the FBI? You're not posting them on the internet. You're giving them to an agency, a lawful agency that's subpoenaing them or whatever. Why do you have to redact that stuff? You should just, I've never heard this. The bizarre stuff that I've heard of in this particular case is mind-boggling, Susan.
Well, hypothetically, I don't know, but hypothetically, he could be asserting a Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself and redacting material on that basis, hypothetically. Hypothetically, he could be redacting the names and addresses of innocent people who he doesn't want the FBI to be contacting, and that's why you need the big, expensive law firm with the big, expensive partners making those calls on whether you can or cannot withhold that from a federal investigation, because it's not immediately obvious that you can, but there might be a way. And those guys would know, and that's why it's $500,000 in legal fees in a short period of time, because you're paying for very expensive advice on how to redact that. Clearly, he was asked for documents. He said that. He said that all of his devices had to be looked at because everyone has, quote, a big data footprint. So computers, laptops, phones, tablets, whatever kind of devices he had to pull documents. And then he had them redacted. Very interesting. You'll see.
I mean, you know personally that the FPPC can be very ruthless. They dogged you for a long time, just going through everything you did when I think you ran for the assembly or something. So it's not that they don't have precedence over this, and of something that looks, they've went after tons of stuff that isn't even close to being as fishy, and I'm trying to put it nicely, as what Rob Bonta has come up with. I think they're gonna maybe even in California, they might serve a lot of backlash if they try to just say, oh, there's nothing going on here, move along, Susan.
Well, usually what they do when they have someone who's plainly guilty, this happened with Todd Gloria when he was running for mayor of San Diego at the same time that he said he was running for re-election to the assembly. And the reason he did that is so he could continue to raise money in his assembly committee, which had higher contribution limits than the mayor's race. He could raise more money for that, and then he could use that money to promote he couldn't use it to campaign for mayor, but he could use it to promote himself with all the key people by sponsoring events and whatever else. He could use the money for that. So what they did with Todd Gloria is they did a streamlined, he actually signed a document and committed perjury saying that he was running for the assembly when he was in fact running for the mayor's race. And that was perjury to say that. And I think they negotiated a $200 fine. They streamlined it. They had a stipulated agreement that he would never do it again. They fined him $200 for perjury. And, really, that's preposterous. And now he's the mayor of San Diego, and no one cares that he did this. And I think the outcome with Rob Bonta could be similar, a stipulated agreement that says, oh, it was a big misunderstanding, and here's a $500 fine, and I'll never do it again.
Yeah, that reminds me of, yes, Mom, I'm never going to steal a cookie out of the cookie jar again. Trust me. That's about as ridiculous as that is. Moving on, and my strategy has been, and if you're center right, freedom, liberty type, split the vote evenly between Bianco Hilton. You're in on that. You're going to have a Republican governor. Of the second part of this, Bonner in, out of the governor's race, possibly rumored. A lot of people he's supposedly been talking to about jumping back in. I say go for it, dude. That just, the more they split that Democrat vote, the better off we're going to be, or the better off the strategy is to split that vote between those two and then hold the others down. And the more candidates in, the better the odds that strategy will work, Susan.
You know, it might. If Rob Bonta were to get into the race with all of this stuff with the Sheng Tao bribery investigation and the FBI questioning, all of that hanging over him, unfinished, because her trial doesn't start till sometime next year. If he were to do that, I can't imagine the other Democrats getting out of the race and saying, we're going to just defer to him. They're going to just wait for it to explode, and they're all going to stay in. So it does divide the Democratic vote even further, which would be interesting. From the Democratic point of view, what they need to do is consolidate the field around one or two candidates, and having 5 or 6 or 7 candidates is a recipe to get a Republican governor. But if they are all so egotistical and so sure of themselves that no one will get out of the race, we're coming right up on the filing period. It starts in February, it closes in March. We'll see what happens.
The only one that I think that's another one that's being spastic, or not publicly, but I keep hearing. One day I hear Rick Caruso's getting into the governor's race. The next day I hear he's going to challenge Bash for mayor. He would be the one, and I don't think. I mean, I like Steyer in there. I think he's got the same, well, probably as big a war chest or close to it as Caruso, but I don't think he's got the he's ran before and nobody's much paid attention, but if he's in there, if he pulls another 4 or 5 or 6 or 7%, great. Caruso could be the only one, I think, at this point that could unite the Democrats. I think as split as this field is, they're playing with fire, and I've heard some of them are even concerned about it, and they really don't know if they can have enough, and this is surprising to me because they usually run with an iron fist. They don't know if they got enough horsepower in the Democratic Party to actually put the kibosh on people and have them back out of this thing, Susan.
It doesn't seem like they have anything to offer them. If the Democrats had the White House, there'd be cabinet jobs, there'd be ambassadorships, there'd be places to offer to put people if they would agree to get out. But with Republicans in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, that's not happening. So it's really a formula to keep them all in the governor's race. This is their opportunity, and they don't see a clear front runner, and they don't see any reason to get out. It's a very interesting situation in California politics right now.
Switching gears, getting to your columns of the week, California Public Utilities Commission traps utilities in high-cost, high-frying Ivanpah contract. I think you made this up, Susan, but go tell us the good news of what's going on.
It's not made up. You can't even make this stuff up in California. So here's what happened. When Obama was president and they were doing their giant $787 billion stimulus package, one of the projects that was funded in California was this solar plant, and it was shovel-ready. And the reason it was shovel-ready is because no one had ever agreed to fund building it, because it's outdated technology. It uses giant mirrors to reflect the sun at these towers with tanks on the top, and the steam in the towers, there's water up there, and the steam from the boiling water turns a turbine and generates electricity. So there's 3 of these giant circular planes of mirrors and 3 towers, and this was an electricity plant. So they build it. Immediately, it's obvious it doesn't work. They need natural gas to keep the water boiling because the sun isn't doing it, because you know what? The sun sets. Nobody knew this. But at night, it's not out, and it's not warm, and the water would cool off. So the thing is immediately in trouble. But all the utility companies signed these long-term contracts because that's what the law says they have to do. They have to guarantee that they have enough renewable portfolio standard compliant energy, meaning solar and wind. And the percentage has to continually go up because we're on our way to 100% of this, 100% solar and wind. Sure we are. The sun goes down. Never mind that. PG&E, which was one of the customers, negotiated an exit. They negotiated a contract termination back in January. And the other utilities that were customers were right behind them. And they all said, we want out. And the owners agreed. And they negotiated a termination fee and the whole complicated deal. The Biden administration approved it. The Trump administration approved it. The owners approved it. The customers approved it. It would have saved ratepayers money. The California Public Utilities Commission staff, the staff, said no. And the commissioners went along with it. Now, why? Oh, because what if there's not enough renewable electricity if we close this plant and Trump doesn't let us build another one? Can you believe that?
Yes. In California, yes.
That's what happened. So the rates are going to be higher than they otherwise would be all the way through 2039.
It's like, why I say that, they have to be. Whether it's California Air Resources Board, California Public Utilities Commission, Politicos, Sacramento, whatever, the South Quality Air Management District, I swear, they must sit, they must be paying the crews overtime to think up, how are we going to raise the prices of every kind of energy in California until we're until we're out, until we can't afford to buy any of it. This is going to be Germany when they close down the nuclear plants and everybody's freezing to death, or it's crazy. I mean, it's
freezing
not crazy.
In the dark.
It's stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's stupid, Susan.
Well, it is stupid, and everybody in politics is saying people care about affordability now. Well, why is that? It's because these dim-bulb, crazy policies made California unaffordable. Why is California more expensive than all the other states? Is it because of some mysterious tornado that landed on us? No. It's because of these dim-bulb, crazy policies. And we could reverse them. It can all be fixed.
What surprises me is the new PPIC polling comes out. They think California's going in the wrong direction. Everything's so expensive. Da-da-da-da. Yet they're going to vote for Democrats. 2/3 or whatever. They're doing that. It's like, I don't know. But I don't know if it's... They're running radio waves of electricity or something to affect people's brains. It's in the water. The strong THC that people are smoking have just burnt their brains out or something. What's amazing is the disconnect the average California voter person has and where the problem lies, Susan.
Well, it is hard to believe that people don't see through this stuff. I think they're close to seeing through it. They're upset about the cost of everything, and so they're only a few minutes away from the realization that, for instance, RFK Jr.'s former running mate, Nicole, tell me Nicole's last name, I don't remember. Shanahan, she said on a video that's online right now that the Democrats lied to her. She finally woke up. And I think a lot of people will have that experience because the Democrats are lying to everybody about this climate stuff and saying, oh, we can't have cars and we can't have suburbs and we can't have single-family homes because the climate. At a certain point, people are going to say, enough. It's too expensive to live. You're ruining people's lives. How many generations are we going to lose to this crazy made-up stuff? I think we should stop believing them and move forward with realistic, practical, helpful policies.
Your other column, and even though it's about Los Angeles, you should pay attention to it because once they do it in Los Angeles, it's coming to every town in California. Your column, Los Angeles tax war, unions exploit loophole to push tax hikes. Susan Shelley.
This is a loophole that the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is trying to fix with its SaveProp13.com initiative. What it says is that taxes that normally would need a two-thirds vote, local special taxes, which would need a two-thirds vote of the electorate, can evade that and get just a simple majority if they're a citizens' initiative instead of coming to you from the City Council or the Board of Supervisors. Identical measures. If the Board of Supervisors passes it, it needs a two-thirds vote of the electorate. If a citizens' initiative puts it on the ballot, it only needs a simple majority. This is a loophole from 2017 from a case out of Upland from the California Supreme Court, and we call this the Upland loophole for that reason. There have already been 3 taxes in Los Angeles City and County that have gone through this loophole, got less than a two-thirds vote, and you're paying them now. And there are 2 more that are going out for signatures. One will raise the sales tax another 0.5% in the city of LA, and the other is a business tax to punish companies that pay their CEOs what the unions think is too much. And these are going to go out for signatures. They're going to get on the ballot. They only need a simple majority. That'll be 5 of these upland taxes just in Los Angeles. This is crazy. This is a crazy way to manage the finances of a city or a county, is to have citizen groups, which are really unions, raising taxes through the initiative process and evading the two-thirds requirement. It's got to stop.
If this proliferates, it will burn California to the ground. There's no way we could survive because they're going to go out. They're going to, like I said, if they get these initiatives, which they probably will in Los Angeles, this is just going to lay the groundwork. This will be in practically every city in California if we don't stop it. And that is, man, it's just crazy. This is why you should join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association to stop this stuff. If you don't want... Prop 13 was to not get you kicked out of your home or taxed out of your home. This is the latest attempt, almost 50 years later, to just tax you out of existence, basically. Tell them why they should join HJTA Go.
Because exactly as Roy just said, they are trying to chew up all your taxpayer protections, one way or another. If they can't do it through a constitutional amendment that the legislature puts on the ballot, they're doing it through court decisions and interpreting away your rights. So we are doing an initiative, SaveProp13.com, to put back what's already there. We think it's already there. The language that protects taxpayers, requiring a two-thirds vote for special taxes, banning real estate transfer taxes, which are sales taxes on real estate, which the courts have been allowing, and we have to stop this before they grab everybody's money on the way out the door. This is really important. SaveProp13.com is the website. You can download the petition in your house and print it on any printer, or you can fill out the form to have it mailed to you. Happy to do that. And you can collect a few signatures from your friends, neighbors, family, strangers on the bus, strangers on the train, anywhere you are, you can collect a few signatures to prevent these crazy loophole tax increases. SaveProp13.com for the initiative, and to join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, hjta.org.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you so much, Roy.
Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and a columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. That is going to be one of the most dangerous items. And like you say, they're test piloting this in Los Angeles. If they get this on the ballot, they will run taxes through the nose. You think they're high now? Holy cow. They're going to be a barrage. They will bear that. You might as well just say, here's a whole paycheck. Whatever you decide, what little pittance you give, so we will survive enough to be able to bust our rear ends to make it so you, the 1.3%, can live a life of luxury. It's distressing. And again, hopefully we'll get into the PPIC polling here later on tomorrow or Friday. But again, the disconnect of the California voter is fascinating. We're tired of paying the taxes. Things cost too much. Yeah, we're going to vote for the same people. It's astonishing. Sometimes the psyche of, I'm going to blame it on the 3x5 screen, and we're going to hopefully have some more reporting on that, of how watching, new study out, watching these short videos fries your brain. And that's how they can, I think, maybe not the whole reason, but I think this is a lot of the reason they are able to pull this stuff off. They are able to sell a non-reality as reality. As the old, Nike commercial, where perception is reality. Your perception is your reality. It's not reality, but you think it is. And they've been perfecting this for a long time. Hit one local story before we bail out today. Montclair councilman in hot water over sexual harassment suit. Preliminary ruling by the judge is Ben Lopez, councilman in Montclair, is owed or has to pay the city back and the two, it looks like two males, he sexually harassed while on the job, $1.35 million. And what's interesting about this case, not only of the, let's say, male part of this, were the two, they were pretty high-level staffers. And this is going to be a very interesting case. They're going to have another hearing, I think, in a couple weeks to see what the judge says. But man, Councilman Ben Lopez is looking to have to pull $1.35 million out of his pocket over a sexual harassment suit in the city of Montclair, and you think you're having a bad day. Wow. That's one incredible story going on in the greater Inland Empire area. Hopefully, more people will see the light. Susan Shelley seems to think that might be the case. I really hate to think things got to get worse. I hate to think that we're going to have to burn it to the ground before people really start paying attention. But we will see if they finally will get their act. The vast majority will get their act together. And let's try something different. At least we're not insane. That'll do it for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours wide. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.